Assalamualaikum. Welcome to the prime time for the month of February 2022. And today's program is about the legacy of African American Muslims and their pioneering efforts. My name is Safia Hussein. I am actually an MCNA Central Team member, and I will be your moderator tonight. Jazakallah khair for joining on time. Before we start, we have a couple of announcements while we wait for people to join us. So I actually wanted to go into all the different programs that MCNA, Muslim Children of North America, offers. So first and foremost is Prime Time, exactly what you guys are attending today. This is a free monthly online program offered by MCNA addressing current topic and trends. And all of our previous Prime Time recordings can be found on our YouTube channel. So like, click, subscribe, all of that stuff for us. All right. We actually also offer other courses that you can see you have your YMJ courses as well as Journey Through the Quran. Now, this is obviously for a small little fee, and it's an extensive course, and it happens in spring, summer, and fall. And the Journey Through the Quran series is actually during Ramadan. So inshallah, please stay tuned and join in. Inshallah, it'll be super beneficial. Now, not only do we do programs, we actually do publications. So this is things that we have personally produced. So we have Me and My Quran, and it's like you can buy it from MCNA YMj. Now this is a 3-level book series which has easy to understand explanation with colorful illustrations, and you're able to understand the Quran the way it was meant to be for you. Not only that, we also have the e-companion magazine called Companion, right? And now this is a children's magazine that's for you and by you. It's children just like yourself that submits pieces, and we go ahead and publish it in our magazine. This is written by kids just like you all across the United States. The magazine also offers all sorts of fun competition where you can participate and win prizes. There's about 2 issues per year. Companion magazine, you can get it physically, but it is also available for free online, right? So you can easily access it from any electronic device. And if you're creative or good at writing, please send us your writings, recipes, or artwork at companion@icna.org. Now, for our MCNA chapters and regions, as you guys can see, we have a lot of chapters. So we have 12 MCNA chapters and regions, and all chapters and regions have sub-chapters and cities. So this is where we have our sessions. They're weekly or bi-weekly or monthly basis. We come together, we learn together, we become friends for the sake of Allah, right? So visit our website and contact our local sisters for more information if you're interested to join. Now, social media goes a long way. You all know that. Please check out our MCNA YMj YouTube channel. It's a great resource to watch our program recordings, such as Primetime, Sahaba Virtual Holocaust, and our Eid Party. Make sure to like and subscribe our YouTube channel so that you can be notified when new videos are uploaded. But last but not least, please like and follow our Facebook and Instagram pages. And if you guys can't do it, make sure your parents can. Now, as I mentioned before, we have a couple different YM Junior courses. The new one that's coming up is called the Path of Ihsan. So unlock the secrets of barakah for a productive life. So that's spring. Let's go ahead and join real soon. As you guys can see, the registration link is right there. And inshallah khair, we'll love to go ahead and have a 4-week session with you guys all. So thank you for the announcements. Inshallah khair, we're going to go ahead and start today's program with Tilawa, and I'm going to be reciting Surah Al-Fatiha with you guys, all right? So, A'udhu billahi min shaitan rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in, Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim, sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim, غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Ameen. All right, so without further delay, let's go ahead and introduce today's speaker. So today's prime time is about the legacy of African American Muslims, their pioneering efforts. So Islam was actually introduced to America through our unsung African brothers and sisters. Have you ever heard of the names Omar bin Said, Bilali Muhammad, Yaro Mahmoud, Ayuba Suleiman Diallo? These are the names of some of the earliest Muslim scholars in America. How did they get to America? They were actually captured, kidnapped from Africa, brought to America by force on slave ships. Have you heard of the names Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali? We'll be looking into them shortly. They were just two of so many African Americans who reclaimed their natural identities as Muslims and declared to the world their decision. That is why, along with Black Muslims across the world, it is important to re-encounter and recenter their stories as we further explore their legacy. In this prime time, we might see how their centuries-long experience can help us better understand and address the contemporary currents of Islamophobia and anti-Muslim bias and racism in the Americas. Our speaker today is very well known, Sheikh Ghayazi McKenzie, and he was born in Washington, D.C. and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. He accepted Islam in 1991 while he was still in high school. He is a graduate from Islamic University of Medina and also holds a master's degree from Vanderbilt University in theological studies. He has over 20 years of experience providing Islamic leadership to schools and organizations. Besides having served as Imam of the Muslim Society of Memphis and chaplain at 2 federal prisons, he's also been the youth director of the Youth and Dawah Center in Memphis, Tennessee. He has also served as an Islamic studies teacher, school counselor at Pleasant View School and the Islamic School of Irving, respectively. He currently serves as the director of education for Embrace and the education lead for Muslim Alliance for Black Lives. Now, before we go into this, we need to understand that now that we know that, Islam didn't came into America with immigrants. Like, I'm Pakistani, my parents are from Pakistan. There's a lot of other people here from Arab descent, India descent, Afghani. Like, we have so many different cultures that join us, right? So now, America didn't discover Islam through the immigrants, like our parents or our grandparents that came to America. No, it was already here because of our African brothers and sisters that were brought here through the slave trade, right? Thomas Jefferson actually held a Quran and would study it. Islam has been in America long before we started coming in and building masajids, right? So it's actually because of the struggles of our African American brothers and sisters, them reclaiming their identities as Muslims, them putting through the struggles, that we will hear about with Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali, with the civil rights movement and how they stood up for their rights. That is why we, as colored people, as sons and daughters of immigrants, are able to have the nice life that we have today. So it is very important to understand that the African brothers and sisters that came here, set the foundation for Islam and for us to be able to live our lives the way it is. So I'm going to actually ask Sheikh Ghayazi to take it over, and he's going to delve right into Malcolm X's stories. Sheikh, please go ahead and take over. Jazakallah khair.
I think we should pay attention. Additionally, we as Muslims, we care about those who are oppressed, those who are injustices. We should be standing for those who are oppressed and trying to change things and make things better. This is what Islam means, and this is a good segue, introduction into our first speaker. And you will see, in general, the legacy of Muslims here in America has been a legacy in which they fight against oppression, fight against racism, fight against those things that are wrong. For example, Malcolm X, well, he's renowned for civil rights and human rights. Muhammad Ali, the same. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the same. And the list can go on and on. So we are people who, in general, the legacy here, African-American Muslims and Muslims in general, is that we speak out against wrongdoing. And the very first person is that I want to go over, and it's only 2 people. I want to be very quick. I know you you're young, and also there's no real pictures, so I want to be somewhat brief. The first point just being that I hope we take this topic serious, and it's an important topic. And the second being just to talk about two um, individuals in particular. And the first one is Malcolm X. His given name was Malcolm Little. And he eventually changed his name to Malik Haj Shabazz al-Shabazz. But it's amazing that he didn't even live to be 40, but yet he made a significant impact on the world. And as a matter of fact, he is one of the reasons during his lifetime that the number of Muslims increased tremendously. We don't know exactly how many. Some estimates are from 50,000 to well over 250,000 people. So he was very instrumental in not only talking about oppression, talking about human rights, talking about these themes that are in the Quran and Sunnah, but also he was very successful with talking about Islam. And at that time, he didn't really know true Islam or have a good understanding. He wasn't part of what they call mainstream Islam. He was part of the Nation of Islam that had some serious issues, but still he was trying. And as we know, the latter part of his life, he did accept true Islam and began to promote true Islam. And even till today, so many people become Muslim just from reading the story and learning about Malcolm X. And I'm not exaggerating. And I know many people, both black and white, and even many of the famous speakers today that you know of, and even those who are not converts, those who were raised Muslim, they became more serious about their religion after being introduced to Malcolm X through books and audio tapes and a few videos as well. So this is a great contribution that he gave, as well as he was a role model in terms of being disciplined and devout. Even though he was raised in a way, or let's not say he was raised, but let's say before he became a Muslim, he indulged or did almost every sin that you could think of. So he drank and did a lot of bad things, drugs, and yet after learning about Islam, and this wasn't even true Islam, he changed his ways. So this is very beautiful, and this shows us the beauty of Islam. And this is a legacy that he left behind too, is that yes, you can change no matter what your background is. You can change and become a better person. And that's very, very impressive. And again, he did this before reaching the age of 40. Likewise, subhanAllah, he only had an 8th grade education, and he utilized the resources that was available to him in prison and other places. So this is an encouragement. Remember I told you that when you study history of people in general, it gives you some insight, it gives you hope, and it helps to make us better people. And that's why even, we should study the history of different civilization, different society, different individual, and especially Muslims, especially those role models. And we're called, the Prophet ﷺ encouraged us to call ourselves after prophets, or to call ourselves names such as Abdullah, Abdurrahman, because they have an impact on us. So when we study the lives of great people, usually we try to be like them. But when we read the Quran and we learn about the story of Prophet Nuh, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, the wife of Fir'aun, and other people, Maryam, may Allah be pleased with her, Hajar, great women and great men, different places, it makes us want to be like them. And so it's very important, again, that we learn these different stories of different people, and especially stories right here. And I want to say also, many of us, and again, I'm assuming that your parents migrated here. You directly benefited from all the effort and work. I mean, after Allah, obviously, the reason that your parents were able to come here, the reason that your parents are making good money, one of the prime reason is because of the efforts done by African Americans. There's no doubt. That's a fact. So because of that, I think we owe it to ourselves to recognize that. And at the end, I will talk about how we can give back and contribute. And we're always trying to make the world a better place. So we can do that as well. Lastly, the last point I want to mention about the legacy of Malcolm X is that he fought for, again, civil rights and human rights. And what's beautiful here is, you notice, I'm sure you're exposed to Dr. Martin Luther King and many other civil rights leaders. They didn't just focus on blacks. They focused on everyone who were oppressed. And that's very, very clear, and sometimes even to their own detriment, even today, meaning that they didn't maybe focus enough on their own issues. But I think this is something that we should do as well, when, again, that we should be people who are not just concerned about our issues. Some people told me, I never really, this is a little emotional, but many people came to me and said, I never really cared about the sacrifices African Americans put together or done or what have you, even though I knew. And some people are even at the high levels who told me this. But after I found myself being oppressed as a Muslim, then I gave more value to the efforts that African American did. So I think we, even as Muslims, should recognize that, and we should be at the forefront of fighting for rights of everybody. And again, if it's anyone, even a non-Muslim, we should be concerned about them and trying to help them, even if it's an animal or the environment. The Prophet ﷺ tells us that a lady was guilty of a very bad sin, but because of that, but despite that, she was forgiven and granted entry into paradise because of giving a dog water, a thirsty dog. So we supposed to have this great sense of care and concern about everyone. And there's one hadith before we move on that I want to share with you that says, the Prophet ﷺ says, La tadkhulul jannata hatta tu'minu. You will not enter paradise until you have iman. A scary hadith to a certain extent. We live for paradise. We want this land in which we can have whatever we want. But yet the Prophet ﷺ tells us you won't enter it until you have iman. وَلَا تُؤْمِنُوا حَتَّى تَحَابُوا. And you won't have iman until you love one another. You're concerned about one another. So Islam teaches us not to be selfish. We're concerned about other people's pain. And especially when it comes to our family, especially when it comes to our ummah, and especially when it comes to the world. And many of you already at a young age, you probably see bad things happening in Palestine and Kashmir and in Burma, Bangladesh. Well, it's not Bangladesh, but Burma, or it's known as Myanmar, that Muslims are oppressed everywhere, it seems like. So we know that we're not doing a good job of really being concerned. So we should be concerned, and not just about us as Muslims, but about the world as general. And this is our legacy as Muslims, that we were in the forefront and very courageous, and sometimes at the detriment of meaning Muhammad Ali, as we're going to talk about next. He suffered for speaking out. Also, there are other Muslims, both athletes, politicians, speakers, and what have you, who also were very very vocal. There's one basketball player named Mahmoud Abdul who was a superstar, literally, if you look him up, and many of you may have heard of him and the NBA, but because of he was been vocal about oppression or what have you, his career ended early. And that's the same thing that we're going to learn about Muhammad Ali, because he was vocal also. His career ended early, but he was able to return back to boxing, which was amazing, and that gave him a lot of respect. So we know many times people are afraid to speak out, because when you speak out, there may be consequences, and that's why even the Prophet ﷺ says that the greatest jihad, the greatest struggle, is to speak to give advice to an oppressive leader. Because if you give advice to an oppressive leader, you may not, they may do anything. They may strip you of your money, they may torture you, or even kill you. But again, we're encouraged to be wise, but also courageous, and also speak the truth. So the next person, and again, before we move on, Malcolm X was extremely, extremely successful. As a matter of fact, especially when I was growing up, you could not hear Martin Luther King without hearing Malcolm X, and they both were contemporaries. They lived at the same time. Now, unfortunately, the legacy of Malcolm X, I just want to mention this to you all, and as well as the parents, has been diminishing, and it's not as well known and revered as it was in the past. But he was an amazing, amazing, and very successful Muslim and civil rights activist. And even despite, like I mentioned, only been in prison and only having an 8th grade education, he traveled to all of these universities, such as Harvard and Yale, and other ones, and overseas. And he went to Muslim countries and spoke about civil rights and human rights. And amazing. All of this is done before he reaches 40. So this also gives us hope that you can do a lot, and you don't have to have a lot. You can make a difference. And this teaches us a thing that we see in Black history. A lot of ordinary people did extraordinary thing, right? You see Rosa Parks, and I mean, she was a Black lady, but yet she changed history. So this teaches us also. This gives us hope that we can change history. You can't say, well, I'm just a kid. What can I do? Well, I don't have money. What can I do? Well, I don't have this. Well, I don't have a PhD. Well, I don't. No, you can do a lot. Many of these people didn't have half of what we have, and yet they made a dent on the world. So, as for Muhammad Ali, I just want to mention a few things about him, and then we will conclude with what can we do. One is that and I'm sure many of you have seen clips of Muhammad Ali's talking. Now, he's a boxer, yet he's talking about Islam, talking about Allah every time. And he was, again, very, very brave, very courageous. And you hear him being very proud of his religion. And this is something that we can take as Muslim too. So again, when we study Black history, you learn about being proud of who you are. And this, if we are, children of Pakistani immigrants or Indian immigrants, or if we're Black, or if we're white, or from Eastern Europe, which was looked down upon, or if we are from wherever, we should be proud of who we are. And we see this in Muhammad Ali, that he was very proud to who he was, and he was always talking about Islam, and many people became Muslim because of him. And he was just a boxer. I shouldn't say just a boxer, just because boxing at that time, just like any other job, you need skills. But But again, you would think, okay, he has to be a reporter, he has to be a professor, he has to be this in order to make an influence. No, he was a boxer, and yet he utilized what he had to make an influence. And we mentioned that he was a three-time heavyweight champion. This I can't emphasize enough, but this is very difficult to do. And this was something that wasn't done before him, is that once you lose the title, to regain it. And the title was stripped from him because he did not want to go to the Vietnam War. And more than likely, even if he would have just reported to duty, they wouldn't have, he wouldn't have fought. So, but it was upon principle. He was like, no, I'm not going to even report to duty and then get off. I don't think that's right. These people, it was his belief that they were, that they didn't do anything to really America, and America was involved in an unjust war, and that caused him a lot of difficulties. And I encourage you all to learn a lot about Muhammad Ali, obviously because he was Muslim, and obviously because he was a great historical historic figure. And it was said that he was at one time one of the most famous people on the entire planet, and his name was Muhammad. And so people obviously got exposed to Islam because of him as well. But I encourage you to learn about his life. There's a lot of documentaries that you can watch, and you don't even have to read books. There's a lot of documentaries, and there are books that you can read as well on your level. I mean, and at all different levels. And he spoke out against who's an activist for civil rights and human rights. Lastly, what can we do? And I'm guessing that some of you are all as young as 8 to 9, all the way to 14. So I was trying to put together some things that we can do, because a lot of times we study something and we don't, or we learn something, but we may not take action. So we want to take action. So one of the things that we can do, we can educate ourselves about African American Muslims, as well as African Americans in general, because like I said, I think it is very important if we live in America to understand that history as well, and especially because a lot of the privileges that we have today is due to the efforts that this group has put forth. So I think we owe it to ourselves to learn more, and especially about those Muslims. And I only mentioned 2, and there's tons of others as well. Some not as practicing or as devout as others, some not as famous as others, but even to this day. And African Americans in general, and not just these individuals, one of their legacies is to be proud of who you are, and to be, and I think they took this from the general African American culture, and to, to share the gift of Islam. And many of them even changed their names, like Muhammad Ali and others, because they wanted to identify more closely to who they are. By Muslim, obviously you don't have to change your name, but he didn't have to. But again, I want to emphasize that Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, who eventually became Malik, or they pronounce it Malik, changed their name to really take on this identity. And identity is something that's very, very important that we can learn from as well, because African Americans, they were stripped of their identity. I don't know where my parents come from besides the South. My parents' names are European names. They're not African names. So that's why my name is Jossie. My dad wanted to give me an African name, unlike his name, Robert and Mackenzie. So this is important too, because I see sometimes kids, they want to fit in, so they change their names to American names in order not to draw attention. And some girls tell me, well, the only reason I take off the hijab is because I don't want to be identified as Muslims, because Muslims now, sometimes people look down on them. But again, if we study African American history and that people look down on them, they became proud of who they were and they changed the history, and we can do that. We can do that as well. And especially African American Muslims, they were proud of who they were, and we can learn from that. And they lived in the same country that we live in now. So educate ourselves and others. And I feel that the young people, they're probably less colorblind and more inclusive than the older people. And that so we can have book clubs, speakers, events like this. And I really think I'm very thankful for being a part of this. And I hope that I'm adding some value to your organization as well. But what I was going to say about young people too, you are very blessed. You have things a little easier than the parents, because parents may have came from, you know, a very homogeneous society, meaning all of them were Muslim, all of them were to a great extent from one ethnicity. But now here in America, you're exposed to a lot of different ethnicities. So I encourage you to volunteer, especially in African American neighborhoods, and there's a lot to give back. And you probably have noticed that, like, whoa, there's a lot that is needed in these neighborhoods. So you can do quite a bit with your time and to volunteer and to make things a better place, even at your age of just being a teenager or a preteen. And I would encourage you also, under the theme of Black History Month, is to and diversity, is to interact with different people. So if you are from the Middle East, interact with people intentionally who are white American, Black American, from Indo-Pac background, from Europe, from wherever, Australia, China, because you will find, like, many parents, the older generation, this is just because of the comfort, and everyone to a certain level, sometimes they may have no one over their house who are from a different ethnicity or different culture, like, ever. And I mean that. And I know even people who've lived here for 20, 30 years and told me, I have no Black friends. I know very few Black people. And my image of Black people, I mean, and again, I've been told this, and alhamdulillah, Muslims have been very open to me. Many times I've been here, I have a negative image of Blacks because I've only interacted with a few in business and here and there, and they were bad interactions. So I've had bad interaction. One person said, "You're the only good African American that I've met." So part of that is because we have such a limited interaction. And that's why I think it's very important for us to learn and to study, because we may become like, just like the people in the past, races or having some racist tendency. So one of the ways for us to give back, one of the ways for us to change and make America, make the world a better place for that means is by just interacting with different people. And being intentional about that. That is something that's great. And many people don't make that effort, but I think if you do, and it may naturally come because you're just so exposed to different people. It's amazing. Even myself, believe it or not, my best friend was a white American, and it just so happened to be that way. And so I'm sure many of you, it may be the same thing. Your best friend may be from a different ethnicity altogether, but we should welcome that. So donate time and effort. That really goes with volunteering as well. Different charities, different efforts that are out there, different organizations that help fight against oppression, racism, inequities, inequalities. There's a lot that you can do. Maybe later on, I can even suggest some organization. Even ICNA themselves, they have a wing that you can volunteer. Their Council for Social Justice wing is all about activism, all about trying to make the world a better place. So there's a lot that you can do with Muslim organizations, with the masjid, and and non-Muslim organization as well. And the last one, you would probably be surprised, support Black-owned businesses, especially if you're young. But yes, if you go to the Black communities, you probably notice this too, even at a very young age. Again, I grew up in Memphis. Memphis, like many urban cities in the South, is predominantly Black, 60, 65, 70%, even Detroit at one time was. However, if you go there, you would notice that there's very few Black-owned businesses, even in the neighborhoods that are predominantly Black. Unlike, there's neighborhoods that are predominantly Arab, you don't see, and they have the majority of the stores. There's neighborhoods that are predominantly Chinese. There's neighborhoods that are predominantly Indian. There's neighborhoods that are predominantly whatever. We've seen those places. The signs sometimes are in a different language. However, for some reason, the neighborhoods that are Black, even the neighborhoods that are white, most are owned by whites. But one people, you go to their neighborhood, they don't own much at all. And this is a regression. And I think, and there's been a lot of focus on this, and you probably have heard this, just listen to the news in passing or what have you. We need to do a lot to correct that. And believe it or not, a lot of the Muslims, they own businesses. So this is something that's important too in the Black neighborhoods. Even the store in which George Floyd was killed was owned by a Muslim. A Muslim ran that store. So we could do a lot to, and so what I'm saying, we are familiar with the Black communities and who work inside of them, and we should try to empower them as well. And part of the reason why they don't own, there's a lot of different reasons, but part of this reason is finance. Part of the reason is financial literacy, and poor financial literacy, meaning not using the money properly. Part of the reason has not been united, and many of us, alhamdulillah, we may be united as a family, as a group, and there's other reasons for this too. But we can learn from that as well. And also, in closing, I want to say that I think it's very important for us to be open. So you mentioned those things that are good, and you mentioned those things that are bad. So there are, I mentioned and focus on the accomplishment, the achievements, but there's a lot of things that African Americans have to do to improve their own neighborhoods, and that they have to do themselves in terms of supporting Black businesses, and in terms of being more upright citizens. So they have a lot of work to do. They have to talk about, some of the things that are good, some of the things that are bad as well. And us as Muslims, we can learn this, is that we have to talk about what is good in our communities and what is bad. And we have to be truthful, and if we are, then inshallah, we can improve. Jazakumullah khair again for inviting me. I'm going to step away to offer the Maghrib prayer. Came in about 20 something minutes ago, but I will try to come back, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair.
Well, yeah.
No.
In the Q&A.
This was an amazing. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I was just saying, if there's anything left, I will try to. I'm going to pray and come back if there's any time that's remaining. Because I know I didn't leave you much time. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's okay. I actually, based off of your notes and your presentation, I created a Kahoot. So inshallah, I'm gonna have fun with the kids with that. But I really enjoyed listening to your talk, and it was a really good insight for me, who grew up here in America. Like as a daughter of an immigrant, it was really eye-opening. So I really do appreciate that, and jazakallah khair for an amazing session. And inshallah, we all use what we learned today to make our lives better and make our brothers and sisters, of the African descent, support them and make their lives better, and understand that their struggles have paved the way for us today, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and protect us all. Inshallah, you carry on for salah, and then inshallah I'll play the Kahoot with them.
Okay. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you.
Bye.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
All right, guys, inshallah khair. So I want to go ahead and show you a couple slides, and after the slides, I will then I will then, we're going to play the Kahoot, inshallah, based off of Sheikh's lesson. All right, so let me go ahead and make myself a presenter, and we'll go from there. All right, can you guys see my screen? All right, so inshallah khair. So I talked a lot in the beginning, and you guys didn't see the visuals, but this is what I was talking about, right? So alhamdulillah, like this was a program about the legacy of African American Muslims, and the two that Sheikh mentioned was who? I'm gonna actually ask you that on there so I can see who were the two people that he mentioned. Where are you guys? Yeah, there you go. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali. Yes. So I'm actually getting a couple questions here, and it says like, is Black History Month good or bad? You know, I actually come across this a lot, and I find it, I'm gonna be very honest, no question is bad question, but when I get this question, it makes me chuckle and rethink a few things. So I want you guys to understand a little bit of history as well. How did African Americans, Blacks, come into America? How did that happen? So a lot of you guys have learned about slavery. A lot of our the entire population of African Americans that are here today, they actually came from what? They were stolen from their land, from Africa, and they were brought here. Exactly, Sana Hafiz. They were kidnapping them and bringing them here. Ridiculous. And you know, so many of them were actually Muslims. So this concept of Black History Month is not just about Black American history. This is about Muslim African history, how it was lost, how they were forgotten. There was like Thomas Jefferson had a Quran that he got from one of his slaves, right? They were Muslim. Some of them were even royalty, right? They took advantage of a system that was in Africa and they used it for them. So this history, you guys, Black History Month is also tracing back to what happened to our Muslim brothers and sisters from this, right? So that's something I do really want to mention to you guys, and it's really important for us to learn from them. Now, what they went through, the struggles they went through, the rights that they tried to achieve, what, you know, Malcolm X did, what MLK did, all of these people, if people like you who are immigrants or sons and daughters of immigrants, we would not be able to have the life that we have today if it wasn't for their struggles. So like Islam was introduced in America through our unsung African brothers. Have you ever heard of the names Omar bin Said, Bilali Muhammad, Garo Mahmoud, Ayuba Suleiman Diallo? These are the names of some of the earliest Muslim scholars in America. How did they get to America? They were captured from Africa and brought to America by force on slave ships, right? So now, did you ever hear of the Malcolm X? We just went over them, Rap Brown, Muhammad Ali. These were just, you know, these are just a little, like 3 names of so many African Americans who reclaimed their natural identities as Muslims and declared to world their decisions. And if you guys go read the biography of Malcolm X, watch the documentaries and the TV interviews of Muhammad Ali, they ask, who's your God? What do you believe in? And they say, Allah. My God is Allah, right? So that's basically what it is. So that's something I wanted to go into. So in this prime time, we basically saw centuries-long experience, what they went through, and this helps us better understand, and it helps us address contemporary currents of Islamophobia and anti-Muslim bias and racism in the Americas. What they're going now, if we don't understand it, we will be facing this as well. What's happening in China with the Uyghurs, what's happening all around us. There's so many areas where, you know, what's happening in Palestine, what's happening here in the Trump era. This all affects us too because racism is rampant. All right, so these are the programs that I was mentioning before. As you guys can see, we have our prime time, we have our YMG course that's coming in the spring and fall. And then we have our journey through the Quran series. So that's something that inshallah, we need to continue. And these are our 2 publications, Me and My Quran and Companion. You have that there. These are all where we have our chapters. I already went over this, so inshallah khair. And then social media, follow us. We have amazing programs and all of these things, all right? So inshallah khair, this is the upcoming YM Junior course. It's called The Path of Ihsan. It is, we do have a full-on course with a proper speaker, and this is a 4-week course. Sign up for it, you guys. This is where you get like detailed sessions, inshallah khair. And it's just going to be how to basically unlock the barakah in your life, you know, so alhamdulillah. So I'm not going to do tilawah because we already did it. Okay, so now is Australia racist? I think there's racism everywhere. I think there's racism in America. There's racism in our back home countries, in Pakistan, in India, and the Arab countries. I think racism is everywhere. Anytime you think that you're better than someone because of the way you talk, the way you dress, the way your color of your skin, it could be anything. If you think you're better than someone, that becomes racism in itself, right? What happened with Iblis and Adam alayhi salam, right? Iblis, Shaitan, right? He used to pray to Allah. He was amongst the angels, but all he said is like, no, I'm made of fire and he's made of clay. I'm better, right? So racism is everywhere. We need to be able to identify it and make sure that we are not falling in those tendencies, that we think that we are not better than other people, that we support one another, right? So going forth, I got to do this because you guys got to leave, right? So Black History Month, I'm going to do classic mode, and we're going to get the game pin. So go ahead and go on to Kahoot, the app, or the Kahoot, turn this off because it's annoying. All right, what's it called? Okay, Kahoot app or Kahoot online, www.kahoot.it. Put in the game pin. I see you all coming. And let's put it in. I have to do this super fast, so hurry, hurry, hurry. The game pin, guys, is 187-777-0. I see Pika, me looking sus. Baba. Ertugrul. I see someone watches the Turkish dramas. All right, let's think. I gotta call it a day, guys. Hurry, hurry, hurry. I'm gonna be closing it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, guys. I gotta move fast. All right, I got 65 people and I have 75 attendees. Fine, I'll wait a little bit. Let's push this. I'm gonna hide the control panel because that's getting annoying. All right. All right, keep on. I have someone like messing up. Okay, let's go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. All right. What year did President Gerald Ford called upon the public to honor Black accomplishment? 1971, 1954, 1976, 1968. Yes, I did make it hard this time. All right, it was 1976. Dude, you guys, you have to understand this. That's less than 50 years ago. That's like, what? That is exactly, actually, that is 45 years ago, right? So that's like as old as your parents. That's ridiculous for, like, that's how late that their struggles and their, were recognized. All right. So, okay, I'm gonna move forward. You guys are gonna hear the baby in the background. I apologize. What happened next right here? All right, I had Malika, it's Ayahs Drive, Hamna, Muhammad, Sirab, and Adil. All right, let's go next. Why is Black history important? It celebrates diversity, it provides understanding and hope, it demonstrates the dangers of racism, all of the above. All of the above, right? When we see the struggles of our Black brothers and sisters, right, we're able to understand that, you know, their struggles made it easy for us who are, you know, sons and daughters of immigrants. We understand what they went through. It provides hope, and it shows, like, if we do stay quiet and if we let them strip them of our identity and we are like, you know what, my name is not Safia, I'm gonna go by Sophia, right? All of these things we're trying to whitewash us, and that's the danger of racism and where it leads us. So we need to be strong in our identity and be strong and firm and move on with life, right? All right, guys, next one. Okay, oh yeah, I forgot the scoreboard. All right, look at that. Okay, next. What was the first act of racism? So Sheikh didn't cover this, but I kind of covered it when I was talking. So let's see if you guys know what it is. Iblis and Adam. That's great. Good job. Yes, Shaitan and Adam and Sam. True or false? Black history is not American history. And then after Sheikh had this as a point on his presentation. So let's see what if you guys were paying attention and know the answer.
It's raining.
It is raining.
Yeah. Where is that?
False. It is American history. It is a part of what made America. So it's not just American history, it's also Muslim history, but it is American history. All right. Malcolm X's life has helped a lot of people become Muslim. True, he has. And not only that, like, you guys, there's this autobiography that he wrote about himself. And so it was actually amazing, you know, like the realizations he had and what he went through. What's it called? It's something that you definitely should read. It's a very easy read. It's not too difficult. And I recommend that you guys read it with your family. Malcolm X's legacy was one that you can change and become a better person. Is that true or false? True. What happened with him before he took Malcolm X instead of little, right? He actually got into bad things. He used to do haram things. He got into prison, and in prison he started learning, and then he went and he you know, found the true Islam and started doing dawah, and he started changing people's lives. So he's saying you can change and become a better person. You don't give up. Always strive to be better, and that's literally his lesson, you know. Number 7, Malcolm X's education was until when? Eighth grade. He only did middle school. He had took advantage of the resources that he had in prison, and that's how he became more well-spoken. But 8th grade, and this is a clear example, right? Like, and even with Muhammad Ali, he was a boxer, right? Whatever you guys do, you have to do best, right? And that is also in Islam, like lead by example. You know, the Prophet Muhammad SAW, he was also uneducated. He didn't know how to read or write, but his manners, his whatever he did the best that he can. Wherever he left it better than he found it, right? So that's something that we need to start taking in an example and embodying ourselves. Whatever we do, whether that's school, whether that's like working at the store, whether that's like cleaning our room, we do it to the best that we can, right? So that no one can say otherwise, that we cheated or we're lazy or we're whatever, right? They're like, okay, this person has great manners and great work ethic, and that's exactly what we need to make sure we follow through. Risk is written by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not necessarily defined by how many degrees you have. All right. Muhammad Ali was a all of the above. So he was a boxer, he was a Muslim before he was a boxer, and he was a 3-time heavyweight champion, a title that was stripped from him because he refused to take part in the wrong war. And people still today are suffering from PTSD of the Vietnam War, right? They knew it was wrong, the atrocities that happened, and he took that stand and was like, no, I'm not going, which is amazing. That's a huge thing. How can we make a difference?
Look, why?
All of the above. We need to educate ourselves about the struggles of our Black brothers and sisters. We need to volunteer because, yes, unfortunately, a lot of them are in low-income areas. And there's plenty of opportunities to volunteer within ICNA, with ICNA Relief, with Embrace. So go out, reach out, find out where it is. Support Black-owned businesses. This is more for the parents than for you guys. But like, yeah, right? It was actually a very important point that Sheikh made. If you go and you see our Desi communities, you'll see Desi stores, right? If you go into the Arab communities, you'll see the Arab stores. If you go into the Chinese community, you'll see Chinese stores. You'll see ethnicities. But yes, if you went to an African American or a Black neighborhood, you're not going to see stores. So, and yes, you know, there's a lot of barriers of education and financial choices that they're there. But for someone who starts their business, we should support them. And that's what we need to figure out. And we should go out of the way to do that. Money actually makes a huge difference, and each dollar that you give to a small business goes a longer way than you giving it to Walmart or Target or wherever you go. All right. Okay, so I'm going to do this because, I have 2 more questions. I'll read out the scoreboard next. Muhammad Ali was a baseball player. That was an easy one. False. He was not. He was a boxer. All right. Prince Ali. All right, Prince Ali. Hamna Muhammad, Rihanna Rahman, yeah, it's out drive, Jannah B. All right, guys. Last question. We as sons and daughters of immigrants have benefited from the struggles of Black Americans. True or false? True, we did benefit. Right? Otherwise, this would have been still a racist area, right? This would have been not, we would not be able to school, we would be separated. Think about it, we deal with so much racism already because we're Muslims, right? The hijab is looked down upon, they sometimes make fun of us, right? They don't include us or whatever it may be. So if this is what we're facing and this is like, we can live with it, imagine what the people of the past, the African Americans of the past have went through, right? So their struggles have made the world what it is, and it makes it comfortable for us. All right, scoreboard is Rihanna Rahman, Hamna Muhammad, and first place is going to be Prince Ali. All right, and I had runner-ups. It's Out Drive and Jannat, sorry. So I hope y'all enjoyed, what's it called? I hope you guys enjoyed the program, and inshallah khair, you take care of you guys yourself, and then we'll go from there, inshallah khair. So I'm going to be ending the program in 2 seconds. 1 second. All right. So let's end. So we're going to just conclude the session with Surah Al-Asr. So what it's going to be, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك أتوب إليك. Jazakallah khair for guys attending. Sorry for taking so long. Take care. Until next time. Assalamu alaikum.